We're back. Our sports speaker series this Sunday will have some University of Tennessee flavor to it with Coach Philip Fulmer, former offensive coordinator David Cutcliffe, who later starred at Duke and before that at Ole Miss, Watson Brown, Tony's father. Did you like that?
I don't think Watson likes it, actually.
You know what? He's just going to have to deal with it. And then the guy who I think is, I would call the foremost authority in Southern college football, Tony Barnhart. If you want to come, we got about 160 of you who have signed up already. It's simple. Just email me at plastergeorge@gmail.com. Again, plastergeorge@gmail.com. Here's a thought. Here's just a thought. If we can ever get him to town, Tony Basilio could be sports speaker series material.
I'd want to be off that day so I can enjoy it.
Would you?
Yeah.
Let's bring him up.
I'm busy. I'm busy that day. How you guys doing?
So will you be coming to Nashville when Tennessee and Virginia play?
Maybe. Actually, I do my show that night from here, so probably not.
Oh.
I saw where it's 11 a.m. local start, which is really good for the local economy, George.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
That's also absurd. Be a tad bit warm.
Yeah.
That you notice they slipped that one in real quiet. Mm-hmm. Not a lot of fanfare.
You said it, I didn't. 11 a.m. local start, and they're paying both those schools pretty good money to be there. And I think they do a lot of good stuff, obviously, in your community. Made it very vibrant, but probably not going to make a lot of money on that one, I would think.
TV dictates starting time.
Yeah.
And this is one that when we get closer to kickoff will not be a very popular start time. Now, what they would hope for is a little cloud cover, maybe a freshening shower around 10 in the morning, cool things off. Anyway, thank you for being with us. How are you?
Thank you. I missed you last week, man. So doing great.
That's right. It's been 2 weeks. So we've held a baseball draft. And Tony, I feel terrible for Chase Dolander. The absolute worst place to end up is in Colorado. I just don't think pitchers can make it work out there.
No. And his heart had to sink. I mean, obviously he's going to say all the right things and you get a chance to play in Major League Baseball and playing an organization. His hope has to be that they flip him for somebody. Because you do not want to pitch in that ballpark. I mean, there's a reason why the Rockies, since they've been there, can attract certain players, but they're not going to attract starting pitchers, George. It's not the way it is. You know that.
No, in the past, their philosophy was to totally overpay.
Yeah.
Mike Hampton,
yes,
the late Darryl Kyle. Mm-hmm. So tell me what you think. Take Colorado out of the picture for a moment. Dolander is a real talent. What do people up there say about his potential as a major league pitcher?
Tony loves him, and Tony's had guys who have come from his tree that have made it, and they think he has what it takes. And I think they were pretty surprised this year that he struggled at times, but boy, he was dominant at times. And when he got his breaking ball working this year and then commanded his fastball, he was as good as it got in the sport. And that's the guy he was supposed to be coming into the year. The thought was that he was going to be, they were calling him 1-1, before the beginning of the year. And then he just didn't have a very good season this year by his standards.
By the way, what are you hearing on Chase Burns?
George, that's interesting. I hear that Chase Burns is borderline burned out with the concept right now of playing college baseball. That's why you haven't heard his name linked to any teams. He has a team that helps him there and has. from the time that he displayed the prodigious talent that he has. And they've encouraged him that you've got to play college baseball next year. And I think right now he's a little tired of college baseball. So I think he's in limbo. There were thoughts inside of the baseball world that he was going to matriculate back to Tennessee. I mean, could that happen? I don't know. Like I told you, I never say never, but that one's about 99% and has been. But it's weird for a guy of his talent to not be linked to anybody. And he's not linked to anybody for that reason.
What do you think the burnout is about?
I just think he wants to play professional baseball. I think he's had 2 years of this. I think from his perspective, it's, I want to start. I never wanted to be in the bullpen. When they put me in the bullpen, did my absolute best, the absolute very best that I could. And he did. But at the same time, I think he looked at Tony at the end of it and said, hey, you know what? I got to move on because I don't know if I can trust you guys to let me start next year and leave me alone. And you know, from his perspective, if that's how you feel, then by all means move on. But I just think he's tired of the concept of college baseball. And he's a great talent, George. He really is a great talent. So it's hard for Tennessee to watch him walk out the door, but Tennessee's haul in the transfer portal, ever since that happened to this coaching staff, they've literally gone out and recruited like their hair's on fire. I asked Tony in the midst of like a 5-player and 5-day haul, boom, 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 boom. And they're still chasing the starting pitcher from Alabama. That's probably the last piece for him. He'll be in this weekend. Holman, he's a Friday pitcher for Alabama. Great player. That's probably the last piece for them. But I asked Tony, I said, when do you plan on sleeping? He said, man, when this is over, we'll have enough time to get some rest. He said, when are you going to sleep? I said, tonight.
He's got a point.
Tonight. I'm going to sleep tonight.
By the way, since you brought up Alabama, and go ahead and bring Kelly into this as well, I don't know who has seen Pat Forty's story in Sports Illustrated. I read it last night and my jaw dropped. The story involves the Alabama baseball coach who got fired, and the level of stupidity that went on that Forty reports, not only about the baseball coach at Alabama, but the guy that tried to bet the $100,000 up in Ohio. Tony, it is borderline just moronic stupid.
Well, I have a belief. I've had friends, that have had addiction issues. And I think there are times where guys that have those issues want to get caught. And, I looked at Forty's story, and the reporting in that's incredible. I mean, that's just, you could not write that script. Guy betting against his own team and the lengths to which he went, and the, like you were saying, George, just the callous stupidity and the way they went about it. My belief is at some point he just wanted to be caught. Obviously wanted to be caught, right? I mean, think about that. Why else would you do what they did?
He was getting, the coach at Alabama was getting basically $500,000 a year as their head coach. This guy who placed the bet, and Tony, if you remember where it was, help me.
It was in Cincinnati's ballpark.
That's what.
Great
Okay,
American
that's
ballpark,
right. Great American
in a casino at the ballpark.
So I've never been in there. I was just at Great American 2 weeks ago to see the Braves and the Reds. By the way, another homer just left about 5 seconds ago.
Incredible.
Probably off Joey Votto's bat. But I mean, to think that you're going to go to a ballpark, to one of these kiosk kind of things, and try to unload a 6-figure bet on a college baseball game, which is what Forty is reporting, in this story. My jaw dropped.
Especially when the limits on most of those baseball games, if Brad Bohannon and his accomplice would have thought that through, in gambling, they have a word they say, the handle, which is how much money's bet on any particular sporting event. On any given night, when Alabama's playing SEC baseball, how much money could change hands on an Alabama baseball game? You're going to walk up there and bet $100,000? You could walk up there and bet $100,000 on an Alabama football game, and they would flag you.
Sure.
If you bet $100,000 on an Alabama baseball game, you're going to get your picture taken from every angle, and they're going to see everything that's on your phone, which is exactly what happened. I mean, they're stupid, and I relate to stupid. I've been called stupid before, and probably resemble that remark. But I think that at the end of the day, Bohannon wanted to be caught. I think the real story is going to come out that he's enmeshed in some kind of gambling addiction, which put him in that spot where he's betting against his own team on a Friday night.
Kelly, one of the things they pointed out in Pat Forty did an unbelievable job was that the text exchange between the guy who placed the bet and Bohannon, their security cameras caught it all.
Clearly visible.
Yeah. I was like, dadgum.
It makes you really appreciate, guys, what's on your phone and how we all better be careful, Kelly.
They got you, man. They got us with the phones. Anything that you put on that phone, they got, man. It's you got to watch what you put on that stuff. It's amazing how they're watching us, and for somebody to do something like that, that's egregious. That's crazy.
Be the perfect time to play the song. I always feel like somebody's watching me.
Yeah.
Remember that one?
No doubt about that. And the NFL, and they did it quietly, but they quietly suspended a dozen or so guys here recently for gambling.
One of them's a Titan.
Yeah. I mean, guys, you've got this small window in your life where you're getting the privilege to do something and getting paid handsomely for it. What are we doing? And for a college baseball coach to work all your life to get yourself in that spot. I was talking with a friend of mine today friend of his son had played for this guy at Kentucky, and he said it was the last guy in the world, that he ever thought would be involved in something like that.
Kelly, I know I butted in. The floor is yours. Take it away.
Well, you didn't really butt in. I'm just going to make a comment. Like, I've said this on this podcast here, Tony, that gambling in the National Football League, and now they're finding out it's happening in college too. But like, it's always been happening. I can remember being on an airplane, and I've said this before. I'm sure people are tired of hearing me say this, but I've been on an airplane before where it was $100 just to get in the game, and it was stacked up on on those little trays that sit in front of you on planes. It carries over into the hotel when you go there. So like, I don't know how you police it. The NFL has suspended some guys, but man, it's an ongoing problem, and I think it's only going to get worse. It's only going to you're going to hear more about it, not only in the NFL and in all these other sports, but in college sports as well.
My thoughts on college has always been the key guy to get to if you're in the gambling community are those trainers who know injury situations,
Oh, absolutely.
Or some kid that's a walk-on, not making any money. Hey, can you keep your eyes open for me? How's Milton's leg this week? Here's $1,000 for telling me, that sort of thing.
Oh, absolutely.
That goes on. I know that goes on. I've said on the air, people think I'm the sky is falling. Hey, look, when you ascribe the ability to make a quick buck to something, people are going to make a quick buck. And the people that need to have that information, Kelly, are going to get that information out of those locker rooms. If they have to dig it out, you and I both know they're going to dig that, whether it's an NFL locker room, And see, college sports set themselves up for this because they do not release accurate injury reports. And as long as you leave it open to that, see, that's why they need a commissioner. The NFL would never play that game. The NFL, if you lie on an injury report, they'll take a draft pick from you.
Yes.
College,
Absolutely.
all these guys are playing games. And so if you play games, the most powerful people in that locker room are the people with the knowledge. It's powerful.
Well, I can remember going into, and I just got signed with a team, and I walked into the locker room. Not going to talk about any of the teams that I played for, but I walked into the locker room, and the media is in there during lunchtime, and guys are down on the ground shooting craps. I mean, that was happening during lunchtime. I mean and you got the media in there, and they're sitting there watching it.
It's awesome.
But now we're making a big to-do about gambling when you're taking money from all these gambling organizations, and now you're trying to put a lid on it and stop it. It's just, I don't know. It's kind of far out there for me right now.
Well, it's kind of like the Northwestern thing with hazing. You know, like, do I think that's good? What was going on there? Obviously not.
No.
Has that been a part of sports for as long as athletes have participated?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Have you seen things and seen coaches say things to people or support people that you would never repeat? See people treated in a way that you would never, ever, like if you and I were sitting around and we could tell stories and people would say, well, did that really go on? And the answer is, it goes on all the time. Now, does it make it right? Doesn't make it right. Here's the deal with Pat Fitzgerald. If Pat Fitzgerald would have been 10-2 last year, you know where this would be right now, this story? Nowhere.
Gone. It would be
nowhere.
Gone.
Nowhere.
That's exactly right. I told George yesterday, and we'll get into it in the 3:00 hour, but I told George yesterday, if people sit here and watch this show and they think hazing does not go on, they're fooling themselves.
Right.
Because it happened. I remember when I was in college, it happened to me. I had to sing. But I remember I started as a true freshman, and they didn't bother me that fall because they needed me. But there in spring practice, I can remember telling my roommate, I'm like, something's going down tonight. So you get the knock on the door. And I said, if you open that door, dude, we're going to fight right now because they're going to get us tonight. And they penny locked us in the door so we couldn't get out of the door the next morning, but we finally did. But if people think that does not go on, I mean, they're fooling themselves. It happens at every program.
It happens everywhere, and for some reason in all walks of life. And I was asking today on my show just about hazing and whether or not it still goes on these campuses. And some people reminded me that, you know, we've had some deaths across the country in fraternities and, you know, what have you, which has led to some fraternities getting shut down. But, you know, it's just a part of human nature. And it's a part of sports. And it's kind of like this whole gambling thing. This gambling deal, it's only going to get bigger. When the Titans build their new stadium, they'll have a gambling window down there eventually. Neyland Stadium will have a gambling window down there in their new stadium. And for Billy Derrick, you know, Vanderbilt will have a new stadium too, so he can take Vanderbilt's opponents and the points when he goes down to see Vandy.
Not for long. Not for long. Tony.
Is that where all the renovations are coming? That I saw that the Board of Trustees are they going to put in a betting booth in Neyland Stadium? Is that where that's coming from?
Hey guys, listen.
It's happening.
Within 10 years, you will see gambling windows in college stadiums because these guys and gals that are in those sports cannot get enough revenue, George. These people are addicted to money.
It'll be like Churchill Downs. They'll delay the start of the race, you know, so we can get the full handle. Well, there was a little shower. Yeah. There was lightning reported in Memphis. So we're. Oh, man.
Good stuff.
So, Kelly, are you finished?
I was just going to ask more questions, but I thought you chimed in, so I'm good.
Well,
I was just going to ask anything going on.
When he talked about Billy's stuff, Billy loves stuff. You.
I love Billy.
He does. There's no question.
I think Billy's a rising star. I love Billy.
Are you going to hire Billy, Tony?
I think Billy's a rising star. I don't know if Billy can take the pay cut to become a part of my organization.
Really?
Perhaps he's independently wealthy. Maybe we could work something out.
He must have been. Hey, he must have been to get in this business.
Exactly.
I was just going to ask, what's going on football wise? We got media days coming up next week. Is anything going on football wise? I'm looking at some stuff and seeing they're renovating Neyland Stadium or got the go ahead to renovate Neyland Stadium. Is there anything going on football wise up there? I know Josh Heupel's he's on the ballot of the Hall of Fame, College Hall of Fame. So what's happening in Knoxville?
Damn, you're coming hard. I'll tell you this. I think it's going to be a really interesting season. And, the thing about Tennessee is this year is how do you not disappoint your fan base after last year? Because I think a lot of Tennessee fans sort of feel like that's the norm. We counted it. Well, my partner, Bino Jeff Henderson, yesterday, going back to 1936, he counted from 36 on. Tennessee's had 14 double-digit win seasons in that amount of time. 80 whatever odd years that is, 84 years, I think it is. And they've had 14 of them. And last year was one of them. Last year was one of them out of nowhere. Generally, Tennessee is going to go 9-3 every year under a 12-game schedule. 9-3 is generally the number. We were talking today, the Vegas number for the Vols is anywhere between 9 and 9.5, depending on where you look. If Tennessee goes out this year and goes 9-3, to me, you're coach of the year material. You lose those guys in the NFL, you lose that quarterback who ran your offense better than anybody you'll ever see in your life. You plug in a guy who has been, who was kind of left for being broken down a couple years ago, who you've rehabilitated, coached back up. You get 9 wins this year against the Southeastern Conference schedule. That would be, in my book, that would be pretty impressive. This fan base ain't gonna like 9-3, but I guess fans short for fanatic. I think it's gonna be a real interesting year, guys. I really do. I'm not sold on the concept that Alabama's going to win games just because Nick Saban's their head coach. I had Phil Steele on me yesterday, and Phil goes through all these models, and I like Phil. I love Phil, in fact. But he goes through all these models. And, he's got this one, this is my, and these, the number of returning players and this, that, and the other. And then we got to Alabama, and he loves Alabama. And I said, Phil, why do you like Alabama so much? And he said, Nick Saban. Which leads me to say this. Nick Saban can't play. Like, he's not going to walk down the field. Who's your quarterback? It's 2023. If you don't know who your quarterback is, man, you got issues.
I'm with you. I don't know who their quarterback's going to be either. I'm not sure. And there's a reason why the kid from Notre Dame transferred there.
That's right.
Obviously, he wasn't happy. Obviously, he wasn't happy with the Simpson kid or the Melrose kid that that played in the spring. So he's brought that kid in there for a reason.
And if they don't know, and you're playing a guy like Heupel, who and I'm not, I know George is having fun, but in today's game, it's the first to 40. In this league now for most of these games. It's crazy what they've done to college football. If you can't score 5 touchdowns, you're in trouble.
Oh, yeah.
Good, George.
It's okay. So before we let you go, if a person just rolled into town and they caught our show for some reason and now they hear you and they're like, this guy is fun, he's interesting, how do they listen to you?
Well, to that, I would say first impressions can be misleading. Yeah. But my website is tclub.team, and we try to do it each and every day there. I put a blog up, like 1,000, 1,200 words today. We try to every day. Fresh new content. And then I do my show, and then we do post-game stuff after games. And that's why I look as haggard as I do right now. It's July. I should be looking rested, but I look worn out. So there.
Tony, fill in the blank. You ready? Because I had an interesting answer. The last time the National League won the All-Star game was blank.
Boy, pre the smartphone.
I said it was the Millard Fillmore administration.
That's pretty good. I saw today we're the National League's favorite. Speaking of gambling.
How could they be? I saw that.
In the world.
How in the hell could that be?
You think Brad Bohannon's betting on the All-Star game?
Let's go live to Great American Ballpark in Cincinnati.
That's
Tony,
smart.
thank you. You're a
Hey,
mess.
thank you, guys. Have a great day.
He is so good. He is so much fun to listen to. Tony Basilio joining us for his weekly visit